You may have moved to Denmark and looking for housing for you and perhaps your family. In your search, you may have come across the words Andelsbolig or Andelsboligforening, and you are not familiar with this concept, which is called cooperative housing in English. We give you a 5-minute explanation.
So, if you've spent any time in Denmark, you've probably heard this term thrown around, Andelsbolig. On the surface, it just seems like a type of apartment, right? But the way most people think about it and talk about it is actually, well, fundamentally wrong. So today, we're going to break down what cooperative housing really is and what it means for you.
You hear it all the time. Someone says, I bought a cooperative apartment. It sounds perfectly normal, totally logical, and it's how basically everyone describes it.
But here's the twist. That statement is completely incorrect. And once you understand why it's wrong, I promise you the entire concept of this type of housing is going to click into place. So if you're not buying a home, what are you buying? It all comes down to this one simple but crucial idea. You're not buying the physical property. You're buying a share of the association that owns the entire building. Okay, so the actual legal owner of the property is an entity called an Andelsboligforening. That's a cooperative housing association. The easiest way to think about it is like a private club or maybe a company. This association owns the building and the residents are all members or shareholders. Take this example from our source material, an association called AB Søparken that collectively owns 20 homes.
And this chart really makes it clear. You're not buying the whole house. You're just buying a piece of the pie. In that AB Søparken example, that would be a 5% share. So you and your 19 neighbors don't own your individual apartments. You all own the building together.
So what you're actually trading, what you're buying and selling is this document, the Andelsbevis, which is your share certificate. This piece of paper is your proof of ownership, and it grants you two really important things. One, a financial stake in the entire property's value, and two, the exclusive right to live in one specific home.
Now, this ownership model completely flips how you think about monthly payments. You are not paying rent to a landlord. Instead, every month you pay something called a boligafgift, a housing fee. Think of it as your contribution to the collective pot that covers all the association's shared costs. You know, like the mortgage on the building, insurance, and maintenance.
Okay, so if everyone is a part owner, who's actually in charge here? How do any decisions get made? Well, it all comes down to a democratic structure where the power is shared by everyone. The power structure is actually a pretty straightforward democratic process. The ultimate authority is the General Assembly. This is where all the shareholders get together and every share gets one vote. This is where the big decisions are made, including electing a board to manage the day-to-day operations, and they're usually elected for a 2-year term. And make no mistake, the General Assembly holds the real power. They're the ones responsible for approving the yearly finances, they officially set the value of all the shares, which dictates the maximum price you can sell for, and they vote on any major projects or changes to the rules. The board works for the members, not the other way around.
All right, so that covers the big picture of ownership and who's in charge. But let's get practical for a second. Let's say the roof starts leaking, or you decide you want to renovate your kitchen. Who is responsible for what? Who pays for what?
The division of labor here is actually pretty clear. You, the shareholder, are responsible for pretty much everything inside your own home. Then, the association uses those collective fees from everyone to maintain the building's exterior. We're talking the roof, the facade, and all the shared infrastructure, from the pipes hidden in the walls to the common green areas.
But, and this is a really critical detail, because you don't technically own the physical unit, you can't just start knocking down walls whenever you feel like it. Any significant changes you want to make inside your home must be approved by the board first. This is all to protect the structural integrity and, of course, the value of the entire building that everyone owns together. So as you can probably tell, this model has some pretty fundamental differences from traditional home ownership. So to figure out if it's the right fit for you, it's absolutely essential to weigh the pros and cons honestly. The advantages are pretty clear. It's often a more affordable way to buy, you actually get a say in how things are run, and there's a real potential to build a strong community. But the disadvantages are really just the flip side of those same coins. Having a say means you have less individual freedom, and that community bond means you're financially tied to the association's health. You are all on the hook for its debts.
And that last point about debt brings us to what is probably the single most important piece of advice for anyone looking to buy. You must investigate the association's finances. A really cheap share could be a huge red flag for massive debt. Our example, AB Søparken, is a fantastic model because it's debt-free, with a solid financial footing. That's the sign of a secure investment.
So ultimately, it all comes down to this one question. The choice between cooperative and private housing is really a choice between two different philosophies of living. Do you value the shared risk and shared reward of a community more? Or do you prefer the absolute freedom and the sole responsibility that comes with individual ownership? Answering that is really the key to knowing if an Andelsbolig is right for you.